The local agent said that I've been under investigation for some time. Their role is to run down drug people. And as far as I can make out, they're not getting anywhere.
"88-year-old Bob Wallace and his 85-year-old girlfriend, Marjorie Ottenberg, have been a couple for a very long time.
Bob and I have been together for, about 20 years?
35 years.
35 years? Gee, time flies when you're having fun.
Bob is a Stanford-educated engineer, and Marjorie is a former chemist, and they fell in love climbing to the tops of the highest peaks in the world.
Look, I climbed Kilimanjaro at age 72.
Really?
I've climbed in Chile.
Did you really climb Kilimanjaro?
Oh yeah, and these are walk-ups.
Combining all their interests, they created a water disinfectant for backpackers like themselves called Polar Pure out of their garage in Saratoga, California. And for people in their 80s, it was a great way to keep busy, especially for Bob, who's a bit of a tinkerer.
You know, for an old guy with nothing else to do, this is something that keeps us occupied.
It's a simple product, just water mixed with iodine crystals, and backpackers have come to rely on it for decades.
As far as we know, no one has ever gotten sick using it. And it's probably avoided a lot of sickness.
It's a useful product, so that we feel very pleased about its widespread use.
Until one day, Bob and Marge got some shocking news about Polar Pure.
The DEA says it is also profoundly helpful to meth makers.
In 2007, the DEA tightened regulation of iodine because they were afraid it was being used to cook methamphetamine. The new regulation classified iodine as a controlled substance and named Polar Pure in particular as a product that was of concern to the DEA.
And that is what really got us involved in this particular problem.
Since the key ingredient in their product was now a controlled substance, things got tricky for Bob and Marge. The DEA told them, sure, you can continue to operate your business, but you must pay a $1,200 regulatory fee, register with the state and feds, report any suspicious activity, and keep track of each and every person that buys a bottle of Polar Pure.
Well, of course, we can't count the people who are using it.
The overhead alone would be too much to pass on to customers.
So that's why I didn't bother with their rules, because I would be out of business if we followed their regulation.
It was the same for camping stores and online outlets who stocked Polar Pure. They pulled it from their shelves rather than having to deal with the headache of new regulations, effectively killing Bob and Marge's business.
Anytime you're dealing with a government, it's a hassle.
Well, not necessarily.
But usually.
Here's what the state had to say about Bob.
He's a legit businessman. The product's been on the market for years. It looks like he's an unfortunate byproduct of the meth craze.
The DEA wasn't as sunny. A spokeswoman told a local paper that Bob was collateral damage. You can probably imagine how frustrating this whole process was. So when the state asked Bob to install a security system in his garage, he sent them a picture of his dog, Buddy.
Security agent.
And because Bob didn't follow their new rules, the DEA used their power to cut him off completely, threatening a supplier of iodine not to sell to Bob.
The local agent said that I'd been under investigation for some time. I was kind of flattered. The whole thing is so ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous.
It's not ludicrous, it's sad. Well, it's funny and it's sad. It's stupid.
They're being put out of business. They're totally being put out of business.
Stephen Downing is a former LAPD deputy chief and a member of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition.
I believe that the DEA is the most out-of-control arm of the federal government today. They've been given so much authority and have so little oversight.
Downing says that authority comes from the very powerful Controlled Substances Act.
Within the Controlled Substances Act, the DEA is given authority to regulate chemicals as they come up, as they see the need to regulate these chemicals.
According to the new regulations set forth in the 2007 Federal Register, the DEA's new approach to iodine was meant to make it easier to bust meth labs.
To make it easy for federal enforcement people to so-called do their job and make their quotas and have their show and tells, they pass these regulations that impact innocent people. But in so doing, they harm so many more people that have other uses for those drugs and those chemicals.
Their role is to run down drug people. And as far as I can make out, they're not getting anywhere.
They are creating situations that allow them to say, see how well we're doing in this war on drugs? We're shutting down meth labs and we're taking these terrible distributors and we're shutting them down and we've stop the flow of this and stop the flow of that, but they never talk in terms of the metric that's most important. How much has meth use declined? And how much has meth trafficking declined? And the answer is, it hasn't.
It's true. The Justice Department's own National Drug Threat Assessment for 2011 said that the availability of methamphetamine was increasing in every region of the country, and the rates of abuse were increasing as well.
There were meth heads before Polar Pure went on the market, and there will be meth heads anyway.
Yeah.
The worst part of all of this is that Bob and Marge aren't in a position to fight back in any meaningful way.
Bob Wallace is an easy target because he doesn't have the funds to hire a lawyer and go to court and challenge this kind of unconstitutional behavior. So he becomes a victim. And they count on that. They absolutely count on it. He's collateral damage, and she smiles and she laughs.
And that's the truth for many victims caught up in the drug war. No matter what you say or do, the drug war just has more power than you.
My career has been making stuff, designing stuff, building stuff, solving problems. What do lawyers, bureaucrats, and politicians do? They make the problems.
It's a matter of providing something that people need, and all of a sudden we can't. And we feel for the people who need it and can't get it.
Yeah, give me something to do also.
That's true. Keep them out of my hair.